Good evening, and welcome to this evening's devotion. I'm going to be talking about restoration and forgiveness. And so, the lady that you see on this picture is my mom. And the reason why I have her picture up is because I have been asking a lot of questions since this word had been dropped in my spirit. The word restoration has been dropped in my spirit. I've called my oldest brother. I've called some family members that was close in age to my mom, and just been asking a lot of questions. My mother died in April of 2001. So she's not here, although I had a very, very good and deep conversation with her before she passed away. So a lot of things that I needed, a lot of questions that I needed answered, she was able to answer, and therefore restored some of the hurt and things that as a child growing up, some of the things that I didn't understand. So tonight we're going to talk about some of those things. I've had a few conversations with different people today, and we'll get into that. So my scripture is going to come out of Jeremiah 30:17. It says, I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. And I also want to read Psalms 51:12 that says, restore to me the joy of your salvation and uphold me with a willing spirit. And that's Psalm 51:12. So have you ever, I'm a big fan, and I don't know if you ever watched those shows where they flip houses. They call it, it's a reality show, and there's a few different ones on there. And they take something very old and something that don't look good, and they flip it and turn it into something of a treasure, something that somebody else will come along and buy. And it's unbelievable the transformation of it all. So flipping is a person where they take something that seems beyond repair. They take this house that seems beyond repair, and they restore it to a better or its original state. And most of the time when they flip, it becomes something better. And it becomes something better because the person that's flipping the house can see the potential in the house, and something that someone else has given up on, the flipper says, And it always amazes me. They can walk in the room and they say, we're going to tear down this wall, we're going to put this here, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. And the finished product is always amazing, where they take something that was trash, something that somebody else looked at and said is no good anymore, and they turned it into something better. They invest some money into it. They're able to get their money and plus some. So they restored something that wasn't in a good state. They restored it to a good state, and sometimes a better state, you know. So let's fast forward to the book of Genesis, the beginning. And one of the other things that I am learning on this self journey is that you always got to go back to the Genesis. You always got to go back to the beginning. And that's why I have been inquiring about my mom. It's because I want to get to the root of some of the whys and where and how the things that I do in my life, the way I respond, the way I react, or have reacted or responded and do things in my life. Where did it come from? What is my genesis? What is the root of it all? So if you go and look in the book of Genesis, chapter 33, where you see God redeems Jacob and Esau's relationship, we all know that God is a God of restoration. God can take a relationship that seems dead and breathe life back into it. Something that man has declared dead, God can do CPR on that relationship and bring it back to life. God doesn't look at what could have been. God looks at what could be. He doesn't look at what could have been. He looks at the now and what it could be. He looked through the lens of redemption rather than the limbs of sometimes where we look of regret. God can take what is broken, any relationship, whether it's a mother or a daughter, whether it's a father and son, whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's friends, whatever that relationship is, God can bring it back together. When you think about Esau and Jacob, Jacob stole Esau's birthright. You can find that in Genesis 25, verse 30. And that severed, that tore them apart. That tore their relationship apart. Esau became angry with Jacob that he set out to kill his own brother. It seemed like the relationship was beyond repair. Even in our own eyes, when you think about it, it seems like the relationship is beyond repair. But God is able. So I don't know who we need to forgive. That's something that we need to reflect on. I don't know what relationship needs to be restored in your life, whether it's your marriage, relationship with children, a sibling, a cousin, a friend, whatever it is. God is a God of restoration. So if we humble ourselves before God, and allow Him to start the restoration, before God can reconcile anything, especially with people, we have to become humble. We can't think, we can't blame, well, they did this or they did that. You have to forgive. And so one of the things that I know about my mom is that my dad was very, very abusive to her. He was 8 years older than her. He was very abusive. And my mother started a very challenging life early as a young woman. Excuse me if I cry when I think about it, because she was 14 years old when she gave birth to my oldest brother. And I asked my brother some questions, and I won't go into it tonight because there's so much more that I need to dig into before I share. But there had to be some restoring between my mom and my dad, between me and my mom, between me and my dad. God is still restoring the relationship between me and my dad. We can't forget that God restored our relationship with Him because we sin every day, and He forgives us every day. And every day He restores His relationship with us. Sin separated us from God. But God sent Jesus to die on the cross. And then He rose again 3 days later to reconcile our relationship with Him. God took the blood of Jesus and turned it into an empty tomb. If God can do that, He can take the pieces of our broken relationships, and God can put them back together again. We just have to humble ourselves. I'm reminded of one of our sisters, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch restoration happens before your eyes. This sister and her husband was on the verge of divorce, and God restored their marriage. She humbled herself. She had a right to be mad. She had a right to be angry. But we think about self-love and how it shows up. The way that love showed up for her husband is undeniable. And the beauty of it all is so beautiful. And it makes you want to be humble. It makes you want to restore relationships. Who are we to think that nobody is worth love. Nobody is worth a second chance. Nobody is worth restoration, like an old house that has potential. Don't count anybody out. Don't count yourself out. And sometimes the restoration has to be between you and yourself. What do you need to forgive yourself for? What needs restoring in your life? What are you so regretful for? That you can't let go and let God. Restoration is a beautiful thing. I was able to have a real conversation with my mother about a lot of things. And this strong little woman bared her heart to me. She told me a lot of things before she took her last breath. A few months later, she told me a lot of things. She answered all my questions. And maybe you need to restore your relationship with your mom. Maybe you have to ask the hard questions. Maybe get to the genesis of why she is the way she is. Maybe it's your dad. I'm still trying to understand my dad so that I can allow real restoration to happen, real forgiveness to happen. I love him with all my heart. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to get to the genesis of the way I show up. And so restoration is needed, whether it starts with you, because remember, we're self-love journey. It has to start with you so that you can show up better in the world. So who in your family, who in your circle, who have you been angry with? Who's that house that you need to flip? Think about that. Is there something in your own life that is broken, that it looks like it's beyond repair? Pray tonight and ask God to restore it. Do you need to be humbled so God can restore it? Then ask God to humble you. And then think about what step you need to take to begin the reconciliation process. Do you need to ask for forgiveness? And again, this could be within your own self. Do you need to have a powwow with your own self? Are you upset about something I was upset about something that I did years and years ago? I didn't even realize that I had that kind of effect because I showed up in the world back then angry, mad, and I reacted in a way that was unbecoming of myself, really. And to hurt someone and to know that you hurt someone can be devastating, especially when that wasn't your conscious intention. I had to let go. I had to forgive myself. I had to realize where I was and make sure that I healed from that place and that never happens again. So what step do you need to take to begin the process? Has there been a moment in your life where you realize you're set back, and because you're in that setback, you're unable to move forward because of some hurt, something that somebody did, something that somebody said? God can restore whatever that thing is. So this is going to get a little deeper later, but this is definitely a good starting point to start on the road of restoration, start on the road of forgiveness to others as well as yourself. Maybe you need to restore your relationship with God himself. Maybe you've been angry with God about whatever, So it takes true transparency. It takes humility. It takes owning your part in the thing, whatever it is you need to do, God is a God of restoration, and He can do it. So I hope you're enjoying the self-love journey, those of you that are taking this journey with me. I pray that God will bless you. I pray that God will restore your marriages, your relationships with your children, with your siblings, with whomever it is. Whomever it is. Humble yourself with your, if it's your own self, humble yourself. Surrender your right to be mad. Surrender your right to be angry. Surrender your right to get revenge. Surrender it all to God and allow God to restore and make what seems trash to one person something treasured and beautiful to God and to you. And I bet you, with everything in me, the person that you've hurt or the person that you need to forgive will appreciate it, and they can start their healing process as well. God bless you. I hope this makes sense. We'll talk soon.